August 12, 1985, a warm summer evening in Tokyo. Japan Airlines Flight 123 was supposed to be a routine journey, 524 souls aboard, including seasoned pilots. But 12 minutes after takeoff, that routine shattered with a sound that would echo through history. This is the story of Japan Air Flight 123. The late summer afternoon of August 12, 1985 was warm and hazy over Tokyo, a typical Monday in Japan's bustling capital. At Haneda Airport, Japan Airlines Flight 123, a Boeing 747 with registration JA8119, sat at Gate 18, its gleaming silver fuselage reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. The aircraft, delivered to Japan Airlines in 1974, was a short-range variant designed for Japan's busy domestic routes, capable of carrying up to 550 passengers in its high-density configuration. That day it was scheduled for a routine 54-minute hop to Osaka's Itami Airport, a flight so common it was practically a shuttle for business travelers, families and tourists returning from their urban holiday. On board were 509 passengers and 15 crew members. 524 souls in total. The flight was commanded by Captain Masami Takahama, a 49-year-old veteran with over 12,400 hours of experience, including 4,687 in the Boeing 747. His first officer was 39-year-old Yutaka Sasaki, with 2,665 hours, and the flight engineer was 46-year-old Hiroshi Fukuda, a meticulous professional with 9,831 hours. The crew was seasoned, the weather was clear, visibility 12 miles, light winds from the southwest, and the plane had undergone a routine maintenance check just days earlier. By all accounts, Japan Airlines 123 was ready for an unremarkable journey. Takeoff came at 6:12 p.m. Japan Airlines 123 airborne, climbing through 5,000 feet. Takahama ready at Tokyo departure, his voice steady as the plane banked southwest over Sagami Bay. The cabin tilted gently and children pressed their faces to the windows, watching the lights of Yokohama glitter against the darkening sea. Flight attendants began their rounds, offering tea and snacks, while the autopilot clicked on at 10,000 feet, guiding the jet towards its cruising altitude of 24,000 feet. For the first 12 minutes, it was a flight like any other. Then, at 6:24 p.m., disaster struck. A thunderous explosion ripped through the rear of the aircraft, a sound so violent it felt like the plane had been cleaved in two. Passengers screamed as oxygen masks plummeted from the overhead panels, and a gale force wind tore through the cabin. Papers, purses, and loose belongings whipped into a vortex as the pressure equalized. In the cockpit, the crew jolted upright, their calm shattered by a cacophony of alarms. "What the hell was that?" Sasaki yelled, clutching the yoke. Fukuda's eyes darted to his panel. Hydraulic pressure needles flatlined at zero, warning lights blazed red, and the cabin pressure gauge spiked. "We have lost all hydraulics," he shouted, his voice nearly lost in the roar of rushing air. The cause was invisible but catastrophic. 7 years earlier, on June 2, 1978, this plane had scrapped its tail during a botched landing at Osaka. Boeing's repair team patched the aft pressure bulkhead, a critical dome separating the pressurized cabin from the unpressurized tail, but they botched the job. Instead of a single continuous splice plate, they used two overlapping sections, misaligning the rivets and halving the structure's strength. Over 12,319 pressurization cycles, tiny cracks had spiderwebbed from those rivets hidden beneath paint and inspections. At 24,000 feet, with a pressure differential of 7.8 psi, the bulkhead finally gave away, exploding outward and taking most of the vertical stabilizer with it. The blast severed all 4 hydraulic lines, leaving the 747 a crippled giant. In the cockpit, Takahama wrestled with the plane that no longer obeyed. The yoke shuddered uselessly, ailerons, elevators and rudder frozen without hydraulic power. The jet lurched into a fugate oscillation, climbing steeply to 26,000 feet, stalling, then diving nose down only to climb again. Increased thrust, differential power, Takahama barked. Sasaki showed the throttles forward, revving engines 1 and 2 on the left wing, while easing back on 3 and 4, trying to steer through raw thrust. Fukuda flipped switches, rerouting what little control remained, but the tail fin was a jagged stump and the plane yawed widely right, then left. It's not responding, Sasaki cried, sweat beading on his forehead. Back in the cabin, chaos reigned. The rear rows depressurized fully, plunging passengers into hypoxia as oxygen masks dangled out of reach. Tokyo Center's radar screens painted a grim picture. Japan Airlines 123's blip veered northwest away from Osaka, tracing an erratic spiral over the Izu Peninsula. Japan Air 123, report your status, a controller demand. Takahama's reply crackled through static. Uncontrollable hydraulic failure, request return to Haneda. But Haneda was 100 miles southeast and the plane was now over the rugged mountains of Guma Prefecture, its altitude dropping to 17,000 feet, then climbing back to 20,000 feet in its fits and starts. Controllers scrambled to clear airspace, alerting Yokota Air Base, a US military facility 40 miles away, but no fighter jets could launch in time to assist. For 32 agonizing minutes, the crew fought a losing battle. Takahama tried every trick in his veteran playbook, adjusting flaps manually, shifting landing gear to alter drag, modulating engine power to coax a semblance of direction. At one point, they regained fleeting stability, leveling at 13,000 feet over the Chichibu-Tamakai National Park. "We might make Yokota," Sasaki said, hope flickering, but the plane banked hard right, caught in a Dutch roll. A side-to-side wobble worsened by the missing stabilizer. Fukuda checked the fuel gauges, still 25,000 pounds, but useless without control. "We are going down," Takahama said at 6:50 p.m. Outside, the jagged peaks of the Japanese Alps loomed through the twilight haze. Passengers saw them too, dark silhouettes rising like teeth against the fading sky. At 6:54 p.m., the plane grazed the ridge near Mount Tagamakahara, its right wing shearing off against the rock. The fuselage cut-wheel downslope, slamming into the forested flank of Osutaka Ridge at 340 knots, nearly 400 miles per hour. A fireball erupted, engulfing the wreckage in flames that scorched the surrounding pines. The impact shattered the plane into thousands of pieces, scattering seats, luggage and lives across a half-mile swath of steep terrain, 4,900 feet above sea level. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of burning debris and the distant wail of wind through the trees. Japan Self-Defense Forces helicopters circled overhead by 7:30 p.m., but darkness and the treacherous landscape forced them to wait until dawn. On the ground, air traffic controllers sat in stunned silence, the radar blip of Japan Airlines 123 gone. Rescue teams reached the site at 6 a.m. on August 13, descending ropes into a hellscape of twisted metal and smoldering earth. The forward fuselage was a crumpled shell, the tail a distant memory. Amid the carnage, they found 4 survivors. Yumi Okiai, pinned beneath a seat but conscious. Kiko Kawakami, a 12-year-old girl with a broken arm. Hiroko Yoshizaki, a 34-year-old mother, and her 8-year-old daughter Mikiko, clinging to each other in the wreckage. All were near the front, where the plane's breakup had been less violent. Yumi later recounted the final moments. The cabin spinning, passengers' cries fading, her own prayers lost in the roar. Of the 524 aboard, 520 died. A staggering toll that made Japan Airlines 123 the deadliest single aircraft accident in history. The Japan Aircraft Accident Investigation Commission, with NTSB support, launched a probe on August 14th, recovering the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder from the debris field. The tapes revealed the crew's heroic struggle. Takahama's final words, "It's the end," echoing with a stoic acceptance. The investigation traced the crash to the bulkhead failure within a month. Boeing admitted the 1978 repair was flawed, a misaligned splice plate having the structure's fatigue resistance. Japan's airline's maintenance logs showed no faults. They had trusted Boeing's work, but the airline faced public outrage nonetheless. Executives bowed in televised apologies, and Japan Airlines president Yasumoto Tagaki resigned in shame. The disaster spurred global reforms, stricter repair oversight, mandatory fatigue testing for aging jets, and the redesign of the 747's bulkhead reinforcements. For the crew it was a testament of courage against impossible odds. For the passengers, it was a fleeting entirety of terror and farewell. On that summer night in 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123 fell from the sky, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow, lessons, and an enduring question: how could something so routine end so tragically?